All right. Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar. Build Group Simplifies Backup, Reduces Cost, and Restores Data in 30 Minutes. My name is Henry Axelrod. I'm a Partner Solution Architect for Amazon Web Services, and I'm going to be your host and moderator for today's session. When you joined today's webinar, you selected join either via phone or computer audio. If for any reason you want to change your audio selection, you can go ahead and do that in the audio control pane on GoToWebinar. From the control panel, you also can submit questions for today's presenters, and you just go ahead and type those right into the question panel, and we'll collect the questions and address as many of them as we can during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. If for any reason we can't get to your question, we'll be able to still respond to you via email. Also, at the end of today's presentation, there'll be a brief survey, so please stay connected to the end of the broadcast to submit your feedback. We really value your opinion feedback and take that very seriously. Finally, the PowerPoint presentation, and this is one of the most requested things that we get and most questions that we ask. The PowerPoint presentation will in fact be available through SlideShare, along with a recording of the webinar on YouTube. You will get an email in approximately 2 to 3 days after the conclusion of the webinar. So keep an eye out for an email address for the email address that you provided. So again, welcome to today's webinar. As I said, I'm Henry Axelrod. I'm a Partner Solution Architect, and I am joined today by Adam Killian, for IT Administrator from the Build Group, as well as Joanne Stark, Senior Manager at Dhruva. Please remember to put your questions in the chat box throughout the presentation, and we'll review them at the end of today's event. Now let's go ahead and begin. I'd like to start by introducing Adam, who's going to talk to you a bit about the Build Group.
Thank you, Henry. Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Kalian, and I am the IT Systems Administrator here at Build Group. So I'll just start off with a brief introduction of myself and the company. So I have been in the IT field for a little over 16 years now. I've been with Build Group for just over 4 years. When I first started here, we had about 200 employees. We now have over 500, so we've been growing a lot, and we've been steadily adding to the number of servers and laptops that we need to back up. We also do run VMware in our server environment, so we have a need to do full VM backups for disaster recovery. Throughout my 16 years in IT, I've worked with a lot of different backup systems. I remember when I first got into IT, a lot of the backups were run in-house, and having an off-site backup meant manually taking a set of tapes or disks off-site to a separate secure location. Over the years, I've worked with several cloud backup systems as they become more available, and as internet bandwidth has increased and cloud storage, they've become a much better solution. So the company Build Group is a general contractor based here in San Francisco. They were founded in 2007. It started off as a group of 5 people and has become one of the fastest growing companies in the Bay Area. So we've more than doubled in size over the past 4 years just since I've been here. And Dhruva has made it easy for us to scale out our backup solution as we've grown. We've also opened offices in Oakland, San Jose, Los Angeles, and the Seattle area. So we do cover a large section of the West Coast. In addition to being a general contractor, we have several divisions in the company that specialize in concrete, drywall, and interior modeling. So that does allow us to cover a wide range of projects. As you see here, we've done Tesla showrooms, as well as large residential projects. And then we also do some of the tech headquarters down around San Jose, like Juniper. So before Dhruva, when I first came on board here, we were running a 100% on-site backup system with multiple NAS devices for storage. We had a pretty large amount of data to back up. Uh, each construction project can create up to 200 to 300 gigabytes of project files, and we also have a need to retain them for a period of 10 years for legal reasons. We were also anticipating a lot of growth, so we needed to find a solution that would be easy to scale up as we needed. We also had lots of employees spread out over multiple sites, and we're planning on opening new offices. So the in-house solution was making it difficult to get everything that we needed backed up reliably. So I would say our two biggest challenges that we needed to address with our backup solution. The first was storage in relation to using an on-site solution. With our projects generating large CAD file drawings and PDFs, we also had a large amount of email to back up and retain, and we needed to keep all this for 10 years. So our current solution also needed to run a full backup each week. And with the large set of data, the full backups were running into the work week and causing performance issues on the network. And we also had all of our historical backups in the office locked in a cabinet on a bunch of NAS devices. So when you're located in a city built on top of fault lines, it's not exactly too safe. The other main challenge we needed to address with backups was how physically spread out all of the data was that we needed to back up. Most of our employees, do work remotely at their construction sites, and a good bit of them work off mobile hotspots with low bandwidth. So the current solution that we have wasn't able to reliably get all those endpoints backed up, and we were constantly having issues with that and spending a lot of time on that instead of being able to focus on other projects. So when we were evaluating different solutions, there were three main things we were really considering. The one thing was consolidation. We didn't want to have multiple NAS devices for storage at each office and have to manually switch them out anytime we needed to restore an older file. We just wanted one centralized storage pool up in the cloud where it was easy to get the data we need when we needed it. And it was also a hassle to have to check multiple servers to check on the backups, as well as the separate system we're using for laptops. So we wanted a solution that would provide centralized management for all of our backups, and basically a single pane of glass where we could see everything in one place. And finally, we needed a solution that would work well no matter where our employees were, something that would provide a reliable backup even when they were working off a remote hotspot. So after doing research and evaluating several different cloud backup platforms, we ended up choosing Dhruva for both our server and our endpoint backup needs. And we were ready to modernize our backup solution and get our data up into the cloud for peace of mind. So with Dhruva, we've been able to eliminate all of our on-site storage hardware and decommission the backup servers at each office. We now have 100% cloud-based storage for all of our backups, and it's stored up in AWS data centers. It's replicated over multiple locations, so it's quite a bit safer than it was in the cabinet full of NAS devices that we had. And with the 10-year data retention requirement we have, Dhruva's deduplication technology, along with the low cost of Amazon Glacier for the cold storage, have really cut down on the cost of having to purchase on-site storage hardware, and we're no longer backing up the same data multiple times. And another great feature, since we switched to Dhruva, is the centralized management. We have a single admin portal that we can log into, get a complete overview of our organization's data backups. On the server end, you just install and activate a small agent on each server you need to back up, and then everything else is managed through that portal in the cloud. So I can easily check file and SQL backups, our full VM backups, all of our endpoints. And there's also lots of great reporting features you can set up and customize. So it's really helped to cut down on the time that I spent managing backups, and has allowed me to focus on other projects here. And finally, the greatest benefit that we have gotten from Dhruva is the data deduplication technology. With Dhruva, the first backup you do is the only full backup you ever have to run on that server or endpoint. So going forward, it only backs up any changes. And that really solved our issue with the weekend backups running into the work week, our problem with managing hundreds of endpoints spread all over the place, some with low bandwidth, And it also solved our issue with backing up the same data multiple times and having a growing collection of on-site NAS devices to store everything. So the results, now that we have been using both Dhruva Phoenix and Dhruva InSync for about 4 years, it has greatly cut down on our overall storage consumption. We're getting a 44x deduplication rate, especially since we have the large construction file sets that don't really change after the project is completed. Our current data backup set for servers and laptops is about 16 terabytes. And with the 4 years of history going back, the total size of consumption is only about 22 terabytes. So without that deduplication technology, that would be hundreds of terabytes of data that we would need to be storing here in-house. When we first started using Phoenix, we did utilize their cloud cache feature, which basically gives you an on-site local hot storage device for faster restores. But we were on cable internet at that time, and since then we've upgraded to 200 meg fiber. So once we did that, we were able to restore from the cloud just as fast as the local NAS device. So we ended up phasing out the cloud cache and eliminating all on-site hardware for backups. So it's been a very reliable product for us. Anytime we've needed any data restored, we've been able to get it and get it quickly. And there was one incident, this was about maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. We had a break-in at our headquarter office, and it resulted in 6 members of our executive team getting their laptops stolen. So luckily, we were using Dhruva instead of our old solution, and we were able to go out that morning, purchase 6 new laptops at a nearby store. We got them set up, put the InSync agent on, and we had all the execs back up and running by end of that day. So it made us look like heroes that day. So we also did some cost analysis, just ran some numbers to compare what we would have spent over the past 4 years versus what we have spent using our Dhruva solution. And it's been a huge savings for us, just eliminating that hardware and the ongoing cost of storage. So as you can see, it's saved us quite a bit through the 4 years, and we have a 5th-year projection there, just to show you the total savings is quite significant. So yeah, in closing, I'd just like to say it's been an amazing product for us over the past 4 years. And when they asked me to come and participate in this webinar, I was very happy to do that and share our story with all of you. So with that, I'd just like to hand this over to Joanne with Dhruva.
Thanks, Adam. And we are Dhruva. We do data protection for the cloud era. And what I thought I'd do is, just to make sure we're all sort of on the same page, do a little bit of market, do a little bit of market setting context. So the data deluge that you're reading about is real. Its data is growing at incredible rates, and the industry average is holding strong at 40 to 50% growth. And this shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. Now, when you view this growth through the lens of data protection, this high growth rate is really dangerous because it's a creeping problem. Infrastructure that you size for today's data volumes gradually becomes insufficient. And unfortunately, that's something you only discover when SLAs are missed or recoveries fail. Now, what IDC has been talking about is that data protection is in this once-in-a-generation period of change, because we have organizations wanting to go to the cloud to store their data remotely for disaster recovery, for reduced costs, to improve SLAs, and the recoverability. The problem is that traditional data protection solutions were designed and optimized for cloud client server environments, and they are now only bolting on cloud capabilities. In fact, one of the quotes from IDC says that they're finding these traditional solutions are finding it to be a tall order in order to follow your data into the cloud without substantial product bloat. So my question is, with any organization that wants to modernize their production environment by going into the cloud, doesn't it make sense that you also modernize your data protection solution? We are Dhruva, and we'd like to welcome you to the Data Protection Redefined. We're cloud native, and we're more effective than legacy solutions because, A, we were born in the cloud, we understand the cloud, and we also allow you to eliminate, as you heard from Adam, all of those data centers and all of that hardware on-prem in order to do data protection. We are built on AWS, which means you get the combined benefits of Dhruva innovation and the power of AWS's high-performance infrastructure in a single comprehensive solution. We back up data sourced across endpoints, data centers, SaaS and cloud apps, and NAS storage, and unify it into a single data pool that not only streamlines your data protection, but also simplifies advanced functions such as search, e-discovery, and analytics. We are an APN technology partner with over 4,000 customers storing more than 150 petabytes of data. And those customers complete over 4.1 million backups each day. We protect and manage data in 40 of the Fortune 500, who along with several thousand other companies experience the cost efficiency and productivity of cloud-native data protection. So how do you benefit from the power of this partnership? Dhruva transparently integrates with AWS microservices. And just to give an example of why that's a benefit, let's say you're backing up into the Dhruva cloud. Well, because we integrate transparently with things like DynamoDB and RDS and ECS, we dynamically scale compute and storage resources automatically. So if all of a sudden there's a growth in your data set, you don't have to worry about changing the configuration or adding more capacity. We do it automatically on demand so that to you it appears as if you have infinite capacity. And all of this happens without intervention from IT. We deliver secure and reliable cloud environment. And there's a number of things that we do for a security benefit, but let's just give you a couple examples. We encrypt data both in flight and in rest. We store your data and your metadata in separate AWS microservices, which not only allows you to recover faster in the event that you do have a problem, but it also increases backup times as well. Our storage is protected because only Dhruva has access to Amazon S3, so therefore there's no attack path. All these features give you security and protection and eliminates opportunities for bad actors to get access to your data. We are 100% SaaS, which means you can not only eliminate dedicated hardware and software, but all those admin tasks like configuring, updating, and patching, which when you eliminate them frees up IT to focus on those more important strategic projects. As a result, we have the ability to say that you can reduce costs up by 50% and increase IT productivity. But eliminating infrastructure dedicated to data protection is only the beginning. Think about it. If you're eliminating hardware, it means you can abolish data centers dedicated to disaster recovery. Let's say you're renting floor space for some of that equipment. Well, you can now eliminate that. And you can also reduce your cooling and energy costs. Using Dhruva for data protection lets you take advantage of the lower cost of cloud storage. Plus, when you use Dhruva, you are only charged for the amount of storage you consume. Not 24/7, but as you come in and back up, you're just charged for the storage that you consume. We are a good citizen, which essentially means we operate transparently and we do not impact your daily operations, nor do we require any effort from IT teams. Our APIs allow you to integrate into existing technology stacks should you need to, such as change management or ITSM solutions. We ensure data compliance by identifying and remediating non-compliance of personal data, and we have certifications that include HIPAA, SOC 2, FIPS, and FedRAMP, all of which sit on top of, as you will see from Henry's slide, AWS's very extensive infrastructure certifications. And we designed our solution to be easy to use. In fact, one of the things, if you read some of our customer stories, you'll frequently read, is that customer tells us that end users are able to restore their own files with as little as 5 minutes worth of training. So what makes us different than other solutions? Well, as I mentioned earlier, with a single SKU, you get Dhruva Innovation and AWS Infrastructure, because we don't make you manage the cloud, we manage the cloud for you. We eliminate the need for a separate AWS account that you need to configure and maintain. We are the only vendor delivering true global source deduplication, and we do this by working with Amazon RDS to dedupe across all of your sites, even the remote ones, and bring all that data into a single data pool and hash table. And what that does is it increases your backup and your restore times. So how does this work? So as Adam mentioned, our first backup is a full backup. And then from then on, it's a subsequent forever incremental. Now, for data that's stored on physical devices, Dhruva uses a timestamp to determine whether or not the data is unique or whether it's just the same data. And in the case of VMware environments, we use change block tracking, which means that Dhruva queries VMware to say, please identify the files that have changed, and then they back them up. So now once we know what is new data, on the client side, what we do is slice this data blocks into chunks. And then we work with Amazon RDS to answer this basic question. Have you seen this data before? If the answer is no, the dedupe chunk is sent across the network and stored in Amazon S3. The metadata is stored in Amazon DynamoDB. And all of these data transmissions are encrypted both in flight and at rest. And then the other thing that makes us different is we give you a choice of storage options. We don't require you to use the most expensive storage. We use Amazon S3. We also have integration into AWS Snowball as well as Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So let's give you an example. Say you are like Adam and you have a very large backup. Let's say in this case it's 20 terabytes. Backing this up into the cloud could take weeks. Or you call up Amazon and order an AWS Snowball. When the device arrives, it comes with Dhruva software built into it. You then point your backup to the device until it's filled. And remember, you're deduping while you're filling, so you can put a lot of capacity on there. Then, once it's filled, you place the storage label on the container, call your local shipping partner, and they send it to AWS. When it arrives, your data is placed into the Dhruva cloud, resulting in access to your data of days instead of weeks. So your business needs a solution that delivers fast time to value without increasing costs. And you've just heard a little bit about who we are and what we can do. But I encourage you, go learn what Forrester is saying about us. In fact, we were the only SaaS vendor recognized in their latest Forrester Wave report on data resiliency. And this is a report that you can download from our website, and you can see the URL there, but just go to dhruva.com and just download and read for yourself what they have to say. All right, so that's us very, very quickly. Let's now turn to Henry and talk about AWS.
Thank you very much for that, Joanne. So today I'm going to take you a bit through AWS. We heard a little bit from the build group when we heard from Dhruva. Now I just want to give you a little bit of the information on the AWS platform and backup and restore on AWS, which is at the core of what we're discussing today. So first of all, it's important to understand what the AWS Global Infrastructure looks like. From a global infrastructure perspective, AWS has data centers all over the world and we group these data centers into geographical locations that we call regions. As of today, we have 22 geographical regions around the world. And we have 69 availability zones within those regions. Now, our availability zones are one or more data centers or actual buildings. We don't do availability zones within a building or within a rack. So they're separated from failures by a meaningful distance, and we have 3 additional regions that we've announced, as well as 9 additional availability zones that'll be coming soon. And we continue to innovate on behalf of our customers and listen to our customers' needs. So as customers, as we hear needs for additional, locations, we base those decisions based on customers' feedback. So feedback for AWS is something that we take very seriously. We're very obsessed with our customers and always listen and provide the services that they need. Now, when we're talking about a storage solution, as we are with backup, there's 3 kind of core components that we see as part of a storage solution with AWS. The first key one is the AWS services. You already heard from both Joanne and Adam some of the key services that they were using, like Amazon Simple Storage Service and Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon RDS. Having these services that provide scalable, durable, and cost optimized cloud solutions is an important basis for any storage solution built with AWS. Then we have our technology partners like Dhruva that integrate or build their solutions on top of the AWS storage services, and you're able to provide that advanced functionality, some of which, like you heard today, like global deduplication and being able to do change block tracking and all sorts of other things that Dhruva is able to do on top of the AWS services. And finally, we have consulting partners that really work with both the technology partner solutions as well as these storage services to help customers really deploy as well as manage really their end-to-end solutions. So just wanted to quickly talk about some of the AWS storage services that are offered, just to get an idea of what they are. So AWS offers storage services across both file, block, and object. In the file space, we offer services like Amazon Elastic File Service or Amazon EFS, which provides fully managed NFS exports. We also provide Amazon FSX, which actually comes in 2 different flavors. There's an Amazon FSX for Windows, as well as Amazon FSX for Lustre, which provides SMB shares, managed SMB service, as well as a managed Lustre file system. Across block, we have Amazon Elastic Block Store or Amazon EBS, which provides a scalable block storage service that's able to be attached to Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud or Amazon EC2 instances, which are the virtual machines that run on the AWS platform. We also have Amazon EC2 Instance Storage, which is locally connected storage that exists and lives with the Amazon EC2 instance, and it's available on select instances. Then as we get to object, you heard today, and these are the services that many of you may already be familiar with, is Amazon Simple Storage Service or Amazon S3, as well as Amazon S3 Glacier, which provide highly scalable and durable object storage. Then as we get towards the data transfer side, we have many services, and this is just a handful to give you an idea that help customers to quickly get their data onto the storage services and onto services like Dhruva. So the first one is really AWS Direct Connect, and what Direct Connect does is it provides a dedicated link from from your data center or co-location facility to an AWS region with dedicated 1 or 10 gigabit bandwidth. So this enables you, and especially in the backup world, if you have very large backups that you need to send over a given time, you can provision a direct connect and have that as dedicated bandwidth, so it's not using your regular internet bandwidth. There's also AWS Snowball and the Snow family, which comes in a few different flavors. And this is basically a ruggedized storage device that gets sent from the AWS region to your facility, where you can plug it in and load up data locally to that, which you can then send to AWS. And as you heard from Joanne, the Dhruva service supports utilizing AWS Snowball. So as part of that, initial loading or seeding of data, you can use the AWS Snowball to send that data, up to AWS and get that loaded up on S3, and then you can continue sending deduplicated backups from there. And just the point here with partner connections is that the direct connect comes in 1 or 10 gigabit versions, but we do have partners that offer sub 1 gigabit versions if 1 gigabit is too much bandwidth for your site. We also offer services like Amazon S3 transfer acceleration, which lets you go through the Amazon global backbone by sending data instead of directly to the region, sends the data through one of our many points of presence sites that exist around the world. As you might have noticed in the global infrastructure setting, we have over 190 points of presence around the world, which may be much closer to your data center facility than an AWS region. And finally, we have Storage Gateway, which helps you in a hybrid solution by deploying a virtual device or physical device on premises that helps you connect to Amazon S3. Now, within Amazon S3, we provide a wide variety of different storage features. One of those key features is what we call storage classes, what many may be familiar with from an on-premises terminology as storage tiers. So we offer storage classes that go from that handle all customers' use cases, all the way from active, through infrequently accessed and archive data, so that you have the appropriate tier throughout the life cycle of your data. With standard is kind of the default tier of S3 and is designed for your active data. We also offer a new intelligent tiering storage class, which essentially will tier your data between a frequently accessed and infrequently accessed tier automatically based on intelligence about that AWS runs about the activity of your data set. So that's you could think of it as fully managed tiering from a AWS perspective. Then we also have the standard infrequently accessed tier, as well as our one zone infrequently accessed tier. And we then, as we get to the archive storage classes, we have Amazon S3 Glacier, as well as what was released earlier this year, Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So when we think about backups in general, we hear a lot of different things from from various different customers. We heard from the build group today. But as we hear from different customers, we see some commonality in the challenges that they face. So I just wanted to quickly go through some of those key points. So one of the common things that we hear from customers with their challenges of backing up is it's difficult to maintain and to be able to manually scale for the storage needs. I think as you heard from Adam, when they were backing up to NAS devices or having their backups stored with those devices, and they didn't have necessarily deduplication, they would have to have they had the potential where they might have needed hundreds of terabytes to be able to address their backup needs. And that applies to customers we hear, whether they're backing up to disk or to tape on premises, right? The data keeps on growing year after year, and you need to be able to maintain and to easily scale up. Or as business needs change, you need to be able to quickly respond to those changing business needs. Customers don't want to be in the position where they have to push back on being able to complete a certain project because there's not enough space left to be able to protect that data. We're also seeing with customers that they're, seeing high costs to be able to build and maintain that on-premises infrastructure, whether that be, the infrastructure to to run their backup environments, or infrastructure to be able to store all that data. In certain cases, the cost of the backup environments are outpacing the cost of the primary storage environments. Finally, and this comes up more and more often, now, especially with regulations like GDPR, is meeting compliance needs, right? So whether that's things like needing to store data on a long term, needing to provide certain security regulations, needing to be able to archive, being able to get insights or the right to be forgotten, and being able to remove data or selective data when needed. So we're seeing customers trying to tackle those challenges all the way through to their backup environments. So as we look at what customers are generally seeing in terms of benefits when they move their backups to AWS, there's a few key areas. One, as Joanne kind of mentioned, is getting access to all the AWS services and being able to optimize a solution based on that. Now, Dhruva is able to help you and kind of make that as like a seamless experience for you, so they are able to utilize all those different AWS services to give you virtually unlimited capacity. Also security, which we consider at AWS kind of a primary job. We kind of say that's job number one is to keep things secure. You're able to encrypt data and use access controls. We provide services that allow encryption of data at rest or in transit, across any of the data that you store on the AWS platform. It's also very easy to maintain as customers move to AWS, especially with fully managed SaaS solutions like Dhruva. They no longer have to maintain any kind of on-premises hardware, whether that's buying it, doing maintenance, supporting it. That goes away, and they're able to just easily, through a web interface, be able to manage everything that they need to. Also, we talked about the scalability. being able to, scale up or down as the needs change within your business. Many of the AWS services you can, not only have virtually unlimited scalability, but you can also be able to scale down when you're not utilizing those services, so you utilize just what you need. And the key with that is that you also only pay for what you're using on the AWS platform. So you can adjust to your business needs, and you're able to drive lower costs because you're only paying for what you use, so you don't have to provision for peak as you might in a hardware environment. So when we think about, our storage competency partners, and we're talking about here with our technology partners like Dhruva, they bring many things to the table. So there's many benefits of working with the partners. You get things like ease of configuration, since Dhruva already builds a solution and manages all the underlying components and building blocks for you. You don't need to worry about how to configure any of the underlying services. Dhruva takes care of all that heavy lifting for you. They also offer advanced services like incremental backups, like global deduplication we talked about. Being able to do policy-based backup, as well as being able to quickly recover your data. As you heard today, even with the build group, they were able to quickly recover the data that they stored within the Dhruva solution, which I think we can all agree is a very important point of the backup, right? To being able to send all the backups, being able to send all the backups is one thing, but being able to quickly recover when you need it is just as important. And all this kind of combined together helps make the total solution and total backup to AWS even more cost effective. So as Joanne mentioned earlier in the webinar about different certifications and assurance programs that AWS works with, because we take security very seriously, and we take customers very seriously. We work with quite a number of different security and certification programs. This is just kind of a handful of those to kind of give you an idea. You can visit the AWS website to get more information about these different programs that we work with. But we have things like ISO 2717 for cloud security and 2718 for cloud privacy, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. Customers on the AWS platform could be HIPAA compliant, can be PCI compliant. For government customers, we offer our GovCloud, which customers could be fully ITAR compliant, as well as customers could be GDPR compliant and FedRAMP compliant, all the way from low, moderate to high FedRAMP compliance. And finally, the last thing I wanted to quickly go over before we get into our Q&A section is the AWS shared security model, or shared responsibility model, I should say. So as we think about, shared responsibility on the AWS platform, and with services like Amazon EC2, which again is the virtual platform, the virtual machines that run on the AWS platform. There's certain components that AWS is responsible for, and there's certain components that the customer is responsible for, and that's kind of why we call it the shared responsibility model. AWS is kind of responsible for the security of the cloud. And that means all the components that are under AWS management, like the regions we talked about, the availability zones, all the edge locations, all that underlying hardware that makes up the global infrastructure. as well as the the other software components that are kind of in there, like the underlying compute, like the hypervisor, the underlying storage and database and networking. That this is all underlying infrastructure components that we're talking about. Then as we get, to the customer side, the customer is responsible essentially for everything from the operating system on upward, which most importantly, as you can see there on the top, includes the customer data. On the AWS platform, the customer always owns their own data and is therefore also responsible for implementing the right set of services, including data protection, to ensure that their data is secured in the way that they that meets their business requirements. So we offer a wide variety of services, as I mentioned earlier, to help customers do things like encryption and other protocols, and work with many partners that provide data protection services like Dhruva. But it's very important to understand that on the platform, as a customer, you are responsible. Even once you send that data, once you send that data on the AWS cloud, or you start moving your applications to the AWS cloud, you're still responsible for your data. And with that, I think we will go to our Q&A section. So let me see what questions we have. And I think the first question we'll open up with, this is for Adam. So Adam, I think everyone wants to know, since you're managing all these backups, about how big is your team to provide this this storage and backup management.
So our current IT team here at Build Group consists of myself, and then we have 2 other employees. So we've got a total of 3 people, and that covers all of our offices from Seattle all the way down to LA, as well as all of our remote job sites. So we, without the cloud technology, it would make it much more challenging for the 3 of us to manage all of this. So yeah, with the size team that we have here, solutions like Dhruva are really huge in taking care of what we need and allowing us to focus on other things here. So so it's a pretty small team for the size company that we have.
Great, and thank you, Adam. I think that's useful for everyone to hear. Making this kind of transition helps with even if your team is not that large. I think there's another one here for you, Adam, and this question I think kind of focuses on what you were talking about during your presentation, because the question is asking, now that you're using Dhruva, what new projects have you been able to focus on that you probably wouldn't have been able to if you were still managing your data with your previous provider?
Well, we've had a lot of office moves come up as we've grown over the years. We've had new locations opening, as well as existing offices moving location. So that's really takes up a lot of time and planning and traveling on our part. So having the backups kind of managing themselves with Dhruva and not having to worry about them as much and the automated reporting, it's really freed up a lot of time for that, as well as the company's growth. I mean, when I started here 4 years ago, we had three people in the IT team, and we've more than doubled since then, and we still have 3 people in the IT team. And we have the time and availability to maintain our help desk and focus on those projects. And like our HR department, for example, is implementing a company intranet site. So we've been working with them on evaluating different platforms and looking at that process. So really, just generally all around, we've had a lot more time and availability from our department to be able to focus on the other needs of the company.
Great, thanks, Anna. So Joanne, I think this next question is probably a good one for you. So the question is, what's the difference between using Dhruva versus just having my own AWS account?
The primary difference is who has to take care of it. It's the easiest way to summarize it. If you have your own AWS account, that shared responsibility model is a good go back to that, where you are responsible to install, configure the infrastructure, be able to do all the software updates, the dedupe appliances. You're responsible for capacity planning, scaling, all of those tasks. And you pay for that 24/7, whether you're using it or not. In the case of data protection, you're not using that instance 24/7. Now compare this to Dhruva. Because we are built on top of AWS and because we work together very tightly, we eliminate the need for you to purchase, install, configure, and manage all of those resources. That's all done dynamically on demand as you're backing up into the Dhruva cloud. We have the ability we pay for all ingress and egress charges, so you're not paying for them as well. You have the ability to set policies to back up your data automatically, and then once it's there, if let's say you have to keep it, Adam mentioned he has to keep their data for 10 years. Well, you certainly don't want to keep that in S3, so just by setting up a policy, Dhruva will automatically tier that into Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive so that it reduces your storage costs and gives you a cost-efficient way to have long-term retention. So there's a lot of things we do that for you, and they're all transparent. But in essence, we just make it so that all you have to do is set it, and it works, and you don't have to worry about managing anything, which is what you expect from a SaaS solution.
Great. So I think we have another question here, and this seems to be about backing up endpoints. And the question is, slightly paraphrasing it, but the question is, does Dhruva for endpoint backups use image-based backups, or is it file-based backups?
It's file-based backup. That's an interesting question, and I'm not really sure exactly what they're asking, but the backup we described is the exact way we back up an endpoint. Now, having said that, if you want to back up the image into a virtual private cloud, we do a number of things to that backup file to make it work within ECS. And so we do another wrappers and everything and basically convert it to an EBS snapshot and change it into an AMI image. And so if you're talking about that and using that for disaster recovery, we do that conversion for you as well so that you now can use that file. In the case where Adam was talking about they recovered, and if it was in a VPC, it's just a matter of using those files and having them instant access to them to pull them back.
Yeah, and I think, oh, sorry, Adam, what were you going to add?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, sorry, no, I thought I heard something. So yeah, I just would add to that. Yeah, I mean, it's an important point that you kind of bring out there, Joanne, is that Dhruva can not only restore those original files to to on-premises or restore those systems to on-premises, but you also can handle the conversion to Amazon EC2 instances, right? So for a kind of disaster recovery type of situation, if the if your on-premises wasn't available, due to whatever reason, like you heard things like with the build group, they had someone like break into the on-premises facility, and remove equipment. But if you need to actually restore that and get that available, you can do that on the AWS cloud as well. So that gives you another option for restoration, and Dhruva kind of handles the some of that heavy lifting for even the restore process for that as well. So I think that's another good benefit that customers can take advantage of with Dhruva. All right, let's see here. So one question, I think I'll tackle this one, and this kind of ties because it ties a little bit into what I was just mentioning. But I was asking, do you need to have your an AWS account first to use Dhruva? And for the cloud storage, are you paying for Dhruva and AWS as well? So, the answer is you don't need to have an AWS account first to start using Dhruva. Dhruva is a fully managed service. It's built 100% on AWS, but you don't need to have an AWS account in order to use it. You can use it right from your on-premises, and Dhruva takes care of all the underlying components, including the storage component. So you don't need to provision an S3 bucket or do anything of that nature in order to utilize Dhruva or even have an AWS account. You can just have a Dhruva account, and you send all that data to Dhruva. The one area where you might want to have an AWS account is, as I mentioned, if you want to recover onto AWS. In that case, you may want to have your own account, but it's absolutely not necessary in order to use the solution. And you only pay one bill. You only pay Dhruva, so there's no separate AWS bill that you have to pay. I think that's an important distinction as well. Let's see. We probably got enough time for a couple of more questions. Maybe one or two. So, Joanne, this question is probably for you. Why is global source side deduplication so important? 'Cause I think you mentioned that during your presentation about global source side deduplication. Can you expand on that a little?
Well, so there is a bit of a religion, so to speak, between target and source. We believe that deduping out on the client is way more efficient, and the reason being is that when you actually transmit the dedupe data, you are not transmitting anywhere near as much capacity, which could give you network congestion plus a whole lot of things. And it also makes it go faster. So we believe that source deduplication is the right thing. Now, global is when, let's say you have 120 remote sites. You are deduping across all 120 sites so that when you have that single data pool, it's a single source of truth and you don't have to do any reconciliation. Let's compare that to Target. Target, you need dedupe appliances that only go up to 100 terabytes, and if something's coming down and it uses 90 terabytes and your next file is 30 terabytes, guess what? You need a new appliance. And so there's a number of things that make that kind of cumbersome, that process. And so we get rid of all of that because we're deduping automatically. We are expanding the capacity automatically by using Amazon microservices. And it's just very simple. And you have a single source of truth for doing anything like e-discovery or analytics or any sort of advanced functions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also, since you're doing all that on the source side, and decreasing that network bandwidth, it'll help as well in the cost optimization, not only from the storage side, but from the networking side as well, because there's less data that's ultimately got to be transmitted. So it could be the difference between, needing a 10 gig link versus a 1 gig link if you're going to go down like a direct connect route, which could, be a pretty substantial savings as well. So I think that actually brings us about to the end of our questions today. I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, and please remember to stay connected and complete the brief survey at the end. We look forward to seeing you in future webinars. Thank you very much, and have a great day.